Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Getting Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and I have a great show planned for you tonight. I got two really cool guests, and we're going to get to them in a moment. Um, Before we begin, though, regular stuff. Please go to boldventurepress.com or on Amazon and look up Zorro's Exploits, or Zorro Swordplay and Romance. I illustrated two stories in Zorro's Exploits and one in um, Swordplay and Romance. You can pick those up both on Amazon or just go to Bold Venture Press. And if you watched my stream last week, I talked a little bit about Peter David, who's going through some medical issues right now, but he also has a really cool book that he wrote about Zorro, which you can pick up again both on Amazon and boldventurepress.com. You can also go on Amazon and pick up the Whimsical Wiz, the complete 2023 collection, which collects the whole year of my Wiz comic with a few bonus pages. And also go to kidinacomic.com, where you can get a new, sign up for a newspaper that is all comics done by some really great artists, a few being actual friends of mine, others that I'm getting to know, and really cool to have the friendships forming there. They are really talented people, and, it's fun comics. If I had one close to me, I'd show you guys, show you the comic, but just go to kidinacomic.com and check it out. So now let's bring on the guests. I got two really, really cool people to talk with. They have a Kickstarter up. Let me bring that screen closer. It doesn't always look like I'm looking so far away from everybody. I'll put it over here, so it's almost like I'm right there. And we're going to bring on the writer. Where'd you go? Okay, there it is. Doug Wood, and artist Jack Van Thomme, right?
Van Thomme, you got it.
Van Thomme. All right. I know I messed that up in my morning, my afternoon. Piece.
You're closer than most, so we're good.
So, just
thank you for having us on. I really appreciate
it. Anytime. So, that's an interesting mask there. You want to tell me a little bit about it?
Just to mess with Jack. I'm just doing bits is what we're doing.
He's ready for combat. Actually, no joke. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're used to me at this point. And at a certain point in the car ride, we're getting coffee, all that good stuff. My 5-year-old says, "Dad, no more bits." I'm not kidding. He just no more bits. He doesn't want any more bits from me. He's done with it. Very sweet. That he's just like, but he's like, I think you've had enough. We're good. Let's move on. So, thank you, Doug, for bringing the bits back. I need it. This is great. This is giving me life.
It's actually way too hot. Excuse me for a second.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, no, that's good. This is the damage that he takes from being a part of this whole project, and this is. They say writers never leave anything out there or on the line, and this is what Doug has committed. He's put his whole heart and soul out there. You can really see his vision for the project. It is one-dimensional, but it's great. He's doing a good job. So
super basic.
Yeah, not a lot of depth in his writing, but
no, and I say Liefeldian a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Jack put too many feet in for my vision, which is very upsetting for me. But
yeah, I've been obscuring more of them, so it's all good. You can see it in my art style. It's wonderful.
Well, first of all, I will say I love your artwork.
Thank you.
I was exploring your Instagram page, and I was getting tired of hitting like on everything I saw. So
sore thumb. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, what you're doing for this comic, and I want to get to it and talk to you guys definitely about it and show the Kickstarter. Yeah, no, the style just really drew me in to it. I mean, as an, I guess for most comic fans and just as an artist, I always look at the art first.
Sure.
And then I go in and check out the story. But yeah, all right. And just curious, are you working digitally or is that like watercolor?
So this is digital. I grew up and, everything I did through college and that kind of work was more traditional medium. And, I like that feeling of sort of tactile. You can hold it. There's a reason that physical tier is important to me with the Kickstarter, and we'll chat about that and all those sorts of things. But for me, I grew up as like a sculptor, somebody who was always working with, oven baked clay to make little whatevers. And that feeling of being able to touch and see the artwork or see the texture is huge to me. But the speed and flexibility of digital media, like, very hard to replicate. So I've worked pretty hard to have my process digitally match what I think would come out if I did it physically. And I've gotten to a good spot, especially what you can see on these pages, where it feels a little bit more natural, but there's still some digital artifacting that's happening.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, listen, I worked digitally for years. Yes, it does. Story's the most important thing, Christian. It's. I was always taught 70% story, 30% art. But whoops. I switched to digital in college. Yeah, no, I've been working with digital for years, but I'm at the point right now where I'm tired of looking at a screen, and I said I'm going back. This is my 2025 like New Year's resolution: get back more traditional. I have a comic I'm working on. I don't want to show right now, but I literally spent one day bordering out, like paneling out 20 pages, so I can then go in and start drawing the comic. But
yeah,
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm still with you there. A lot of my warm-ups are done physically, like on traditional cardstock stuff. If you go back far enough in my Instagram, you'll see cute little bears and cute little critters and things like that. Those are all my warm-ups throughout the day. So if I'm starting something, just a quick little bit of line art here and there, and they created thousands upon thousands of these little cards that I think are adorable and funny. And maybe a dozen or so people agree with me there, but there is something about being able to touch and feel the paper medium that is, you just can't replace it on a screen.
Yeah. I truly, it's how I started. It's, I just love it more. And there's and I'm sorry, Doug, we're keeping you out of the conversation. I'm going to get to you in a moment.
I was going to jump in because I like to mess around with inking. I'm more of like the tracer because that's just trying to learn the process. But doing it on paper is so much more. I don't know. It's like there's more vision to it. I feel like when I'm trying to do it, when I go to my iPad and I try to mess around with it, I do move a lot faster. I feel like, but I don't know. It loses something to me. So I understand what you guys feel like.
Yeah. I also noticed that when I'm on pen, I get looser. I feel I'm tighter on digital. So
yeah, there's also a digitally, like the digital correction on any line that you draw. I work in Procreate, which gives me a little bit more flexibility, or I'm just more, I have a better sense of what's going to happen when I put a line on the page, and that it's not going to get this autocorrect kind of smoothing that I don't really care for. But yeah, there's a feeling of looseness on, pen on paper, and it also forces you to refine your details a lot more. Like you can zoom in forever when you've got a 600 DPI canvas or something like that, and just continue to add whatever you want. But when you are stuck to the confines of my eyeballs can only see this teeny little thing, there's only so much I can do, and I have to use, at minimum a micron that is this big. There's only so much detail you can add. So I think it forces an artist to make different decisions than they would if they were working digitally.
Doing coloring and flatting and trying to ink and stuff like that, I make so many mistakes trying to zoom in so far, and then I pull back and I'm like, I was definitely changing weight the whole time, and then you look at it and you're like, where have I been at the whole time? It all looks the same, and it's like wasted my whole time.
It's inking is a whole other story. It's that's the main reason I started going digital. Was as I told you guys, we were talking backstage, but in my audience, I've said it on here. I've had 2 kidney transplants, and after my second transplant, I was on such a high dose of medication. My hand was literally like this. I couldn't draw for 8 months. Now my hand is steadier, but it still shakes a bit. I went digital because I was making too many inking mistakes. And I kept having to light box and redraw over and over again. And now I'm like, I'm going to just push through it because I don't want to be staring at that screen. You
Yeah.
know, that's
Well,
just it.
yeah, and a mistake you make for 2 seconds on the page and you agonize over for hours, the average reader spends 30, 40 seconds reading an individual page, which sounds awful. Like you're pouring hours of your life into this thing. But at the end of the day, when you make peace with the fact that there's going to be mistakes on the page, that's okay. You move on. It makes
Yeah.
life a lot more easy. And I don't know, it makes art a lot more fun too. And that's something I think you've seen what we're doing, that there is a lot of fun I'm having with this. And I
Mhm.
don't make many apologies for little goofy, weird things. Maybe they're inconsistencies or whatever, but for me, that's kind of the joy of making art and making comics with Doug, is that he's open to those flexes and those little edits that are strange and odd. And I think the story is the better for it. Maybe not, but it makes it a more enjoyable story to work on.
He's a stronger storyteller than me, so anytime he adds or changes things, it's always for the better. Uh, so I always defer to whatever he wants to do.
That's not a
Well,
good. I wouldn't. There are enough people in the chat and at the Comic Jam that can attest to the fact that you should not give me that kind of power. I will wield it irresponsibly and with reckless abandon. I
well,
saw Dan Wilson is in there. Dan's an awesome writer.
yeah, I wanted to. He just
Yeah,
had a comment to digital art's hard for me, but I do love the perspectivers. I do too. I
yeah.
do.
But
I
he's
just
he's
say,
got a number of stories that we'll go back and forth on his intention as a writer, kind of how he sees it
yeah,
coming out on the page, and that's really a rare thing to find collaborators who you can work with. Doug being one of them as well, that will understand what that artistic process is and know where the limits of their understanding are. Like Doug knows what he knows and he does it well, and he also knows what he doesn't know, and so he'll say, "Hey, if you have an idea for how to do this, let's go with it." There was a point in the script writing process where he's like, "Yeah, I've got it kind of cut down to 20 pages," and in my mind, I'm like, "I saw the other 4 pages that you just cut, and I think they make it a more intriguing end to the story for it, and now it's a 24-page story." And that's more work for me, but I think it's going to be a more engaging story for what people are looking at.
yeah. We will talk about the Comic Jam. I did
Yeah.
one piece with them, and I haven't had a chance to go back. I'd love to get back and do that. They were great to work with, and my Discord's always going off with Comic Jam stuff. You guys are constantly
Bunch of
talking,
jokers.
and yeah, especially Christian. I feel Christian writes a lot in there.
Verbose. Yeah. The good news is most of it's pretty incomprehensible. So that's sometimes it shows up on the page, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, he's on there a bit.
Yeah. Anyway, you know what? We're already like 15 minutes in. And I haven't even asked my first question I always ask you guys, my guests, which is, for those who are unfamiliar with you, please tell us about yourself. What are your influences? How long you've been creating comics for, things like that. So whoever wants to go first.
Oh, because I'm the writer. Okay. So I'm
You tee it
Doug
up,
Wood.
yeah.
I'm a disabled writer from Kansas City. I have been writing for many, many, many years. I only been making comics since probably about 2019. I tried to solo for so long and thought, oh, I can be a lone wolf and figure this out. Who needs community? And that was a huge mistake. I tried to submit to a competition, the creators for creators, that like people from like Image and Boom and the big name creators were doing at the time, trying to do like a grant. And I found an artist and she recommended me the Comics Jam. She says, you got to find this community, you got to try this out. And at first I was resistant because I was like, nah, I got this. And she was so right. When I finally joined, very welcoming people, very even though you have to take a little bit of ego hit if you think you're doing what you are doing well, you have to say no, 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 start over, do the one pages, figure out how that works, the short
Mhm.
stories and stuff like that. And I think I became a better writer because I spent the time, sometimes be competitive with other people that were in the jam, but finding my foothold and reestablishing, okay, one pages work like this, 4 pages look like this, an anthology story looks like this, and then just keep working and up and up and up. I gotta run several Kickstarters. This is my 8th one, so
Wow.
I'm really happy. The first one did really well enough that we got picked up by a publisher. So just continue going forward.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Was that Ultramax?
Yeah,
yeah, that's a really cool set of books. If you haven't checked it out, it's worth it. Doug, I'm not sure where you got that put out there, but there's been so many books that Doug has put out that show, he can write a self-contained story, something that builds on itself, but also have these little projects that help build that community. For those who don't know me, I'm Jack Van Thomme, based out of the Minneapolis area, just a little north of there. And one of the first stories that I had published was actually in something that Doug put together, Big Hype Volume 2. So really cool project. Part of the reason that I like working with Doug is he's, a consummate booster for the indie comics community. He was the person who got me involved with the Comics Jam. He's slowly readjusting to seeing light with both eyes. It's pretty sick. But I got involved with the Comic Jam in 2019. Did a really bad job staying committed to it for a year or so. I don't know. Maybe my wife and I had our first child around that same time, and that takes time. But once things settled down, we got a sense of who we were as parents. I started to get much more into comics. It had always been in the background. Love drawing, love sculpting, love art. But the idea of, hey, this is a low commitment thing. You make a single page, right? You then move on to a different page. That makes such a difference in your development as a creator, development as someone who's thinking about their own style, about their own philosophy of art and things like that. And so I've done almost 400 pages for the Comic Jam now, 400
Wow.
1 or 2 page stories, a ludicrous amount of them with more good writers than I could possibly name. Some of them are in the chat here. Some of them are doing other things. Some of them aren't making comics anymore. But through all of that, I've really loved the ability to explore and play with different art styles, different work. Again, it's something you'll see in our story, that I will play around with different art styles. The promo images that are up there, the mini posters, things like that, are more of a painterly style because that's something I'm playing with. I'm working with that kind of stuff. Some of them are in this more Mike Mignola style. Huge influence for me. I'm also somebody who loves video games and things like that. So the Darkest Dungeon series, if you've ever heard of that or played that, really cool kind of cosmic horror, which doesn't always mesh or doesn't always have that expected mesh with my more cartoony or playful style. But for me, it's been really engaging and a really fun mashup to work with. So long way of saying that, my background as an artist and a creator, something I've been doing my whole life, and then have had some more formal education on it. And then as an adult, like a lot of us do, you find out if you're really committed to it, and then you stick with it. And that's where I'm at right now, is that stage where it's self-teaching, but also learning from others and where they make mistakes or where they do things that are different from what I do and they do them better. It's been really great to find a community at the Comic Jam with Doug, with others, with the folks that, that watch your channel, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's really great. Now, you guys were talking about the Comic Jam a lot. I know we mentioned it. For those who are unaware, you want to explain what the Comic Jam is?
Yeah, I'll do that. So every week we vote on a theme to the comics that we'll produce. Writers will get like a week of writing a one-page script. They'll put a call out which artists want to take a script, and they get shuffled around and given out to an artist. They have about a month to. Is it still a month? Have they changed that?
Yep.
Okay.
4 weeks.
About a month to try to produce the comic, and then we bring in letters and sometimes colors if it's needed or stuff like that. And it gets produced, and everybody gets collected, and we put it out on a Medium website. So it's just something that if you're writing, you can be consistently working on different themes, different ideas that you wouldn't naturally gravitate toward every single week. If you're an artist, you can have a whole month to kind of figure out what is what, how to work with a new creator every time, and see what they're doing writing and what they're doing with a script, and how to readjust yourself and how it fits to what you like and how you do it. So it's kind of like it's a melding pot right there, I guess.
Yeah, and I will also throw out the fact that if you are someone who's brand new or has never written a comic and you're curious about it, or you've never drawn a comic but you've written one but you want to start drawing, the Comic Jam is an awesome place to get started, to just test the waters. Excuse me. Because for so many people, it's one of their first experiences in comics. It's one of those first experiences working with someone that wasn't their neighbor, or I'm making a comic with someone that I haven't met in person, or I have this idea that I need to sort through. You've got a community of people that are at different stages in that development. So you can learn from somebody else who's, just starting out in their career. You can learn from somebody who's done a couple hundred pages of work or has been published several times in anthologies, has their own book. You can learn from Christian, right? He's got all this experience. There are lots of people who are in that same situation. And so you have this community of people who are super nice. Like, I don't know if there are people who would disagree with that, but, and you've got people who are working on ideas for characters. I saw Bear Claws in the chat. I won't even sass them, but Bear Claw is working on this really cool character, Dartfoot, that we've had conversations about how do you develop and build this character. And these are things that aren't necessarily attached to the one page, but are just attached to the community. Like, let's learn together. Let's talk about decisions that we would make differently or what we can do. So I found it to be a really productive community with a moderately good sense of humor, somewhat poor taste in music, depending on what day it is or who's posting. But always chatter going on there. So if you ever want to join, send Doug or I a DM and like Bear Claw says, you do not have to wait until you're good enough. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is today. So do it. I don't know. It's been my philosophy with this.
I will say I enjoyed my experience the one time I worked with them. It's just my schedule hasn't allowed me to. And one of the things I told myself for 2025 is I'm going to be producing more comics.
Yep.
I spent the majority of last year just playing. I don't want to say going back to my roots and just studying artists like I used to. And I'm a more of a Silver Age fan, and a bit of the Bronze Age. And I was looking at artists like Gil Kane and Dave Cockrum, and just I'd look around here in my studio and just be like, oh, Alex Toth, all these guys, everybody I love. I've been studying their Christian loves kids.
He actually writes a lot of scripts that get rejected. We have a whole pile of like sort of banned words and things like that. And so for Christian, it's like, oh, Gene Simmons tall. It doesn't make sense why he wants that to be a storyline. Or like Gene Simmons, my dad now. And that's the whole script. It's nothing but, or life-size Gene Simmons cutout in my room right now. Like, that's not a script, Christian.
That's what they need, a life-size Gene Simmons for their Fugitive Poems display.
That's a really good idea. Really get people a sense of what those stories are about. I think that's a good idea. Free advertising for Christian too. Yeah. He can just put that there because he's virtually identical in terms of makeup, everything like that. So doesn't even need a table anymore.
And when it kills him, there's always the kiss coffin. So
yeah, perfect.
His kid worked in comics, but I won't talk about that.
Yeah.
There's the story about Kiss and their first, one of their stories in comics where they like pricked their finger and had a drop of the blood in the ink that was getting printed onto the page. Yeah. I don't know if that's apocryphal or not, but it's a real thing, I think, or rumor at least.
Yeah. So who were some of your like influences in the way you ended up? I know you mentioned Mike Mignola as an art influence. Doug, do you have any art or writing influences?
Oh boy, I have just like a big variety of things that I like. It's harder to nail down. I like you said, the older stuff. I can look at what's his name? Jose. That one with the Batman.
Lopez?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And stuff like that. But I also I can like like manga, manhwa. I don't know. I read it all. I'm reading webtoons. I'm reading tapas. I'm reading and so what I like is just a hodgepodge, and it's not my ADHD. I just have a very eclectic taste. So
right there, I've actually been embracing more of my manga anime influences lately.
That's awesome.
In some of my work. So
some people are embarrassed by it, but I'm glad that you do it. Yeah.
I mean, where is it? Did it fall? I guess it fell. What I'm working on right now, the comic, is influenced by 70s, 80s mech animes and stuff that I love. So the idea basically is, what if Swiss Family Robinson was on Voltron? Like lived on Voltron. That was
Big fan. Yeah, love it.
yeah. So
Yeah. So
that's
simple.
yeah, and it's the first story is going to be 20 pages. It'll probably be about 60 pages in total, but that is
Yeah.
I'm doing the first 20 right now. But yeah, no, that's awesome. Go ahead.
I just picked up a copy of Neon Genesis Evangelion, like the whole collected volumes of that. And if you're not reaching out or you're not open to breadth in what you're looking at, I think you're doing yourself a disservice as an artist or a writer. It might not be for you, but if you don't try to figure out why it's for someone else, that is, you're not going to grow as fast or as much in your own work if you're not trying to figure out who you are. Maybe I'm not going to write in the same way or draw in that same way, but you can learn some of those techniques and start to appreciate them so much more.
Yeah. And Daniel says Mazinger Z, which here in America we all know as Transor Z. I don't know if you're familiar with that title. But...
I recently saw a comic which was kind of like Messenger Z, but it's like in a hotel. He's a hotel basically, and there's like operating out of him. And I was like, oh, that's such a fun, simple concept.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. I've always been a big, giant robot fan.
Yeah, me too. I just did a short story not that long ago because I was been into it. It was like a luchador that finds one out in the desert, and he's like, he wanted to be a heavyweight, but he never got a chance, and he's trying to teach the robot how to be a heavyweight kind of guy.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to just a throwaway comment. Don't ever ask me about Mecha Napoleon. It's an idea in the back of my head. You can imagine it. That's it. I'll throw that out there. You may see it someday. It exists. That's all I got.
Consume bad and mediocre media. Gives you lots of ideas. I'm actually trying to stay away from television right now, or limit my time. I find if I'm on watching TV too much, I'm not producing my comics. So I usually put something on that I've already watched that I don't need to go look at.
Yep.
But so you two met in the Comics Jam. And you, Jack, said you've already been published in some of Doug's books. How did you get together? Let's talk about the project. It's called In the Pale Moonlight, which, by the way, I love the title. And if you watched my little short, I always had to, every time I think of it, I have to think of from Batman, from the '89. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? And I just remember that last line is the title of your book.
Yes.
So how did this book come about? How did you two decide to work on it together?
Okay. Sorry, I'll try to do this as condensed as possible. It was kind of a crazy story. There was a comic editor, publisher who was putting out. Start over. I was looking for an agent, a comic agent, because I was trying to do like young adult comics, and the comic publisher saw my tweet and said, "Hey, I can be your agent or manager." And I was like, "Oh, I've seen this guy's name before. I saw it on like comics news sites about how he was allegedly scamming artists out of work, and he owned IP for a certain 90s comic artist, and so he did our phone call, and I was just trying to like scam or troll a scammer type of thing, and my idea came from kind of like Alan Moore's run with that, and so sorry, this is rambling. Anyways, after realizing that this should not be such a silly thing, it should be a real thing. I just kind of like started focusing on it. One of those ideas was like an anthology, because all my friends were thinking it was funny to do the trolling thing. So I was like, there's so much talent here. Why are we wasting our time trolling somebody when we could actually make a book? So we made that big hype book, which is like a gigantic anthology book with tons and tons of creators. And then this is the other aspect of it, where I was going to be the fake writer of.
So, and then you decided to have Jack really do the work.
Yeah. Well, no. So Doug had reached out at one point. I think you mentioned here, but You know, at one point, Doug had a different artist attached to the work, and they, for whatever reason, decided, you know what, comics is not quite the space for me. Moved on to other work, things like that, which that takes a lot of, you know, self-actualization to understand where you fit into the world and what you want to do. And so Doug said, hey, you know, this first issue's done. I'm looking for somebody, and so puts out an idea to the ether. Hey, can we? You know, I need an artist to help out with this. I was originally going to help as a colorist because colors are cool, right? I can name like 6 of them. But I was like, you know what? Why don't I just draw the pages? And he's like, well, the first issue's done. Just color that and we can move on. But I can't 1-for-1 match everybody. And frankly, I don't want to. I don't want to match how somebody else drew their first page or whatever. So I was like, let me just redraw it. You're not on any timeline and anything like that. This is a passion project, something that a story you want to tell, and a story that I think deserves to be told. And so I will put in the effort to make sure it gets done. And so through a bunch of different conversations and a way longer timeline than we initially planned, the book has gotten to where it is now. And so I've been really happy because Doug has been super flexible and accommodating with, hey, let's do this the right way. Let's put together a book that has its own feel, its own vibe, not, you know, remnants of an agent who wanted to pick up the book and then was, you know, not great, and an artist whose work can't be replicated for future editions or anything like that. Let's have this be our book. And so that's what you're seeing now in the Pale Moonlight Part 1 is that first effort at let's put together some pages. Let's show people what it's going to look like when they get the final book in their hands. So you'll see the cover up here. This is, I'm excited about it. I think it's got some interesting style for the covers and for some of those mini posters that are kind of stickered throughout here. And then the style itself on the page is kind of where I've been at home, especially lately, in that more chunky, blocky, you know, give people the feel of where the form is and then let them fill in the gaps where they need to. And so the Kickstarter itself is running right now from March 19th through April 19th. We're looking for $1,500 to help cover the cost of physical print, shipment, and things like that. The cool thing here is that Doug and I are telling this truly as a passion project. So we're not making money on this. Like if we get to 1,500 and the cost of printing is 1,200 and that includes shipping or whatever, that $300 is going to charity because he and I are not here to make money on comics. The economics of making a comic book right now suck, frankly, for a lot of people. I'm sure people in the chat, other people listening to this later will know how hard it is to make a comic book, how time consuming it is and things like that. For me, this is fine. Like I have a day job. I get paid in order to do my work during the day. And I think we can make it, you know, but the rest of it is, it's a story that's worth being told. And if we can figure out how to get it into people's hands, we'll be really happy. And anything else that goes beyond that, you know, go to a good cause. So, you know, you can see already that at least 42 people already have decided to back the project and have given at some level, which is phenomenal. If that's where we ended up the campaign today, that tells me that at least 42 people wanted to read our story. And that's 42 people more than I thought was actually the case. So anybody who's already backed, super kind of them. Anybody who backs further or whatever, shares it out, is doing a service. But super excited about what we've got out there so far. And you can also see.
Can I jump back in real quick? Sorry.
No.
I realized I
No,
didn't do a very good job of kind of like pitching the overall story, I guess. There was the run of Alan Moore where these Superman we're all in a void, and all of these like different revisions of this character we're all in a void, and I like that idea of this place that has been there for so long, and it's filled with these characters that are so similar and so alike. And what happens in a murder mystery situation? These are like all people that are supposed to be like the world's greatest detective in their own mind, and one of them is dead. And what happens when you strip away all the Batman tendencies of stuff like being able to hold a criminal over the edge to try to get his, your information. If you have none of those easy go-to tricks like he does, what does that look like when you're supposed to be the world's greatest detective and everybody knows what you're doing? I just like the idea of playing with comics is very loves to homage him, the Batman character. There's Moon Knight and Shadowhawk, and there's Darkhawk, and there's so many more, and the Confessor, that was one of them. Anyways, and just so I love those iterations as well, those homages as well. So I just kind of want to tell a love story of those characters too. So
And I gotta say, this is the art that obviously I saw earlier that I love. I mean, the story just it sounds very interesting. Sorry, I'm just adjusting the monitor for me here. Um, but yeah, first of all, this is a hard angle to draw, so good job, man.
Thanks. An unpleasant one to be sure, but there's behind the scenes. There's good, boxes sitting there to help structure.
oh, can you go back up to that first page right there, right that
Right
one?
here.
Yeah, and oh, so Jack, he was trying to do like a 3D effect on this one, and I wish we could have figured it out, and nail it, because what he envisioned was such an amazing idea of this, just like
You don't think I figured that out, Doug?
no, did you?
Yeah, we'll talk. So imagine those retro throwback 3D glasses, the red blue anaglyph things. There's an original version of this that is pure line art only, and pure line art doesn't do what you want it to do there. But I have a pair of 3D glasses that I've now taken and held up to my eyes with my iPad right there. There's a version of this that exists out there. So
And and even though he went with it more almost traditional style, it's very, I think it's very stunning looking, and so I was really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, no, I like the piece a lot. I'm just going down now. This, by the way, if we go back up to all these characters looking down, which is do you have your Batman homage here, or is that
Not in this section right here.
not
He's
in this?
coming if you scroll a little bit more.
Yeah.
he's
Trigger
feeling
warning
pretty good.
of scary gore here if you're any of that kind of
Now,
squeamish.
did you said that not on the air, but when I read it, somewhat horror, or no? Was that something else I was reading?
There's a little bit more. I would say it's more like more gore is present than I would typically draw, but done in hey, we're using it for a purpose to evoke, this is a shocking reaction. So you will probably get to it pretty much next.
Yeah.
But there is sort of like a trapped room kind of a feel, a little bit more mystery, a little bit of tension, and those kind of things that you would see in a typical horror. And there are a couple scenes throughout that I would say, oh yeah, this is going to be a shock to see on the page. And so this is one of those scenes right there.
Yeah.
I can't say that it's the only one. I can't say that it's not, but there's definitely some moments where you're like, something horrible has truly happened here, to help provide characters some of that context for how real the stakes can be if they don't solve this murder.
Yeah. Wow. This is really nice stuff.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head whose work it's reminding me of. But I'm blanking on artists' names right now.
Yeah, I mean, some of my other influences too, if you've read the Manhattan Projects, Nick Pitara's line work is so nice. It has this kind of like craggly, organic feel to it. I grew up watching like late night Comedy Central. Dr. Katz was
Oh yeah.
You just can't beat that stuff, right? And there's something to it that is, you are listening more for the writing and for the story, and the imperfect quality of what's on the page is really appealing to me, because there's some things that don't quite feel right. And that's in reality too. When you're looking at something quickly, or looking at a scene developing, not every shape that your eye picks up on it can recognize right away. And that's one of the nice things too about the setting, is that Doug writes a lot of detail to be filled in. And that makes me sound like I'm saying Doug's a lazy writer, which I am. Doug is a lazy writer. They all are. It's fine. But there's elements where he's like, there are metal structures. You decide what they look like. You decide how they fit. And for me as an artist, that is really nice. It's liberating to say, I know that what I need to do to fill in this page and guide the reader's eye is kind of a shape here or something to give the page rhythm. And that's been really nice. So you'll see that a lot with the backgrounds, that there are these kind of cloudy white shapes that are coming through. That's designed to guide the reader. And that's been a really nice feature of the environment he's given me.
Yeah.
I will say this too, in writer defense, is just, and I always tell this to new writers, is it's hard to know what an artist will like on a script. I start out light. I always offer ability to write more and more in depth, and or even draw things out, to kind of sketch it out and figure out what helped them accomplish the page. But there's people that I will give my light scripts to, and they'll say, "Oh my God, you're so perfect. Thank you so much for doing it like this." Because I don't want the hand holding. I want to be able to imagine in my own pace and find my own choreography and everything like that. And then I will hand that same script to another artist, and they'll tell me I'm the biggest lazy hack that they've ever had to read. And so you never know where you're going to go. And so finding somebody that's willing to understand what you're trying to accomplish is always awesome when you can
Yeah.
melt.
No, listen, I agree. I love writers like you. I need those lazy writers. I had a project that was so difficult to do once, where the writer literally said, I wanted to look like the pose from the issue of this comic, from this specific thing. Basically, I want you to basically copy that, but put my character in it. And I'm like, but it was like almost every panel was like that. It was like reference this, reference this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay when they give me like, oh, okay, they're in a tank, and it's here are some tank images to reference for it. But if I have to reference everything, I'm like, why the hell am I drawing this?
Yeah, just put together a scrapbook for me.
Yeah.
There's definitely a balance to it, and like Doug said, there is different artists have different preferences. As you get older and become a person, you kind of recognize that everybody writes a little bit differently, just like you draw a little bit differently. And so you sort of learn what the intent is. Like, there are writers that I work with who give a lot of reference images, and that's great. And then I will oftentimes come back and say, I'm not going to draw every one of those reference images. So it's helpful, but tell me what's really important, or here's how I'm planning on doing it. It's all about that back and forth communication that sometimes is lacking. And I think that's a skill that you have to build and you have to develop as a creator. Again, it's one reason that I like working with Doug. He's really open to the input and feedback, and I try to be thoughtful in what I provide as feedback. I'm not going to tell him, hey, you left aligned this caption or whatever. Like, I can deal with it. But if it's something that really matters to me, like, hey, I need to insert 3 panels here to solve stuff, that's a huge factor. So
can you tell us a little bit about the characters we've been scrolling through here? Like, first of all, I love the rendering on this guy's mask, but and I think the pants, little pinstripes on, they just really like sell this character.
Yeah.
Talk to me just about the characters that we're looking at through,
Okay.
and I'll scroll up, but let's start with him.
This was a recently renamed character. Jack said that I hate this name. Let's redo it. And I pitched out Inquest, like a detective that would make like a series of questioning statements or interrogation, investigation, and we kind of settled with that name, the Inquest. And he's somebody that was abducted and by aliens and has like an analytical mind. He's escaped torture, and he's now found himself in this void like area, and he's trying his best to figure things out, but nothing's clicking because e- uh, even as an alien or somebody who's been tortured by aliens, things are not what they seem, and it's hard for him. So what happens to a person that could possibly go mad when they're already been brought to madness before?
And what I try to put into that design here, because again, I react mostly to what's on the page. Like, there are details that Doug provided, even some character references, like this is the character that inspired me. And what really stood out to me is this element of, someone who's asking questions. You don't always want somebody to know why you're asking the question that you're asking. So I thought, what better way to mask any micro feature or any micro expression than just the most flat mask possible, something that is reflective, something that is kind of this plasticky look to it. Sort of a tangent here, but I've been doing a lot of miniature painting, like 40K, all sorts of stuff, things like that. And one of the elements that comes out of there is how do you render different materials in different ways? So that mask, I appreciate that you pick up on those details, Michael, because there's that reflectivity, there's some of the materials that are reflecting the color of the environment, because that might be a flat white silver mask in reality or as it's imagined, but it's going to pick up on some of those details. And so I want that to be a part of how how people engage with that character at first blush.
And I love the you kind of look at it and you get that sense of the grays kind of looking at it too. So you immediately kind of feel kind of alien to them. I like that about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love your digital painting. I can't digitally paint. I'm colorblind, so I can't mix. I can do grayscale stuff.
That's gonna make it challenging, yeah.
But and that's actually something else I put up as a New Year's resolution this year for me. No more color except for covers. I'm hold on, I accidentally hit the wrong button. How do I get over? Okay, cancel. Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing everything in grayscales from now on, and so it's like stop being an idiot and focus on your strengths. You know, that's.
But I mean, you've seen those too. Like, there's reels all over where someone will take 5 different colors and they'll turn their iPad into grayscale, and then they'll pluck those colors out to render a painting. And then when they pop it into color, you see that really tone matters oftentimes so much more than the color or the hue value. And to me, that says, yeah, you can play around with color a lot more than you realize and still have something that looks color accurate or feels appropriate on the page. But yeah, I can't imagine what that's like to have any degree of color blindness and have to handle digital painting or anything beyond that inking stage. So kudos to you.
Thanks. Let's talk about this guy. I love the look. I love the pose. I love the graffiti lettering on here.
He always surprises me with something. He knew how to do graffiti.
I have a book of graffiti art and a book of Soviet era Russian propaganda, like mural shots. It's interesting.
This is the grind. He's a superhero that came from a rich family. Where does this sound familiar? And as his family fell into issues, he picked up and decided he wanted to focus on vigilante work. And so while other of these people are all afraid of letting you know who they are, he's out front about it, and he's not wearing a mask. He wants to be with part of the community, and it's just like a different like strain of the same archetype every single time, and it's just what makes these people different, and then that's his deal.
Yeah. And the design itself is pretty straightforward. I mean, probably not actually skater appropriate gear there. A lot of people don't realize that at one point in my life, I was an aspiring to own a skateboard person, and I didn't ever get into that phase. So I know, but
so me.
I used to.
Yeah, I wish my cool neighbor, like 2 doors down, he has a skateboard, but then I saw him the other day holding his toddler, and neither of them had helmets. I'm like, I can't do that. That is not safe. So, no, but I think that there's an element of skater culture. There's an element of kind of like on the ground, living, in the real world groundedness that I think is important to represent too. This is a scene kind of taken out of context because we don't have a scene in front of a warehouse where someone is doing a kickflip over a rail. Like, that's just not the case. But, as a way to kind of illustrate where this character fits and how his world looks, I thought I'd pull this through.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. I gotta say though, I'm really just muscles on the arm. I love how you did those. Those look nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, this piece here and this character intrigues me. I know nothing about him, but it kind of has that, Moon Knight Egyptian quality to it. And I am a Moon Knight fan. Well, classic Moon Knight fan.
Yes.
So,
oh yeah, get it.
I can't resist an opportunity. I can't resist an opportunity to pluck it. I know.
Yeah, no, I got the. You got one too? You're gonna make me feel jealous, or?
No. My kid wanted to let everybody know it's her birthday tomorrow, so she had.
Cool!
Happy birthday!
Do you want me to send that book?
I again with the colorblindness, I read a lot of like the black and white stuff. I don't know if you noticed, I have a lot of the DC showcase books
Yep.
that collect all that. I also have some of the Marvel Essentials, and I got the Werewolf by Night that he appeared in first, and so I'll go and I'll pick those up. You know, what else do I got? Like Ghost Rider and the Defenders, and
I think I saw Space Ghost back there too.
yeah, there's a Space Ghost figure back there. And,
I mean, and for a colorblind person, that's got to be a phenomenal character too. Just like super easy to read, right? Right on the page.
yeah, oh yeah, no, I first of all, Hanna-Barbera is like my all-time favorite animation company. The superhero stuff is great. I'm not too much into their Scooby-Doo stuff, but I love their animal cartoons. I was actually watching some today on MeTV. I didn't know they have a whole block for like 2 hours. They have the was it the TOON channel, right? MeTV
Yeah.
TOON or whatever.
Yeah.
That was, and I just need the superheroes. I mean, I got right over here next to me.
Birdman. Yeah.
And I use these when I draw because I have some wrinkles in clothing. So
Yeah.
I kind of pose them and say, okay, where's the wrinkles falling? So I got that there. I'd love to get a Mitor one day if they ever have that. He's my favorite. Always loved Mitor.
Really?
Yeah, there's something about being able to have a real life model for how to render folds on clothing and things like that as a reference. I try to work from imagination as much as possible just for convenience sake, but again, I mentioned or referenced having like art books available. Lots of that stuff is so helpful for just getting a sense of how the weight on materials and fabric folds and falls.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no replica for study and practice. So
yeah,
I get it.
that's like I said, that's what I spent most of the last year doing. And I actually started rereading. God, I stopped because I just couldn't do it anymore. I haven't read it since college. The Andrew Loomis book, Creative Illustration. I
Yeah.
decided to finally buy a copy for myself last year. And I just sat down and started reading it and practicing out of it. What's it called? Daniel, I believe that is correct. Toth did all the designs for the majority of the superheroes. I don't think he did like, Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles. I think that was someone else. But all the, more heroic characters, I think.
Oh,
he worked on.
I thought he did. Well, I thought he did Space Ghost, but I didn't. I thought he did the Impossibles, but I thought he maybe didn't do some of the other ones. Maybe I'm mixing them up. It's been a while.
I have all three Alex Toth, Genius
really?
Illustrated, Genius
Oh.
Animated. Yeah, I have all those behind. And that's,
Envy.
I'll be honest, those are the main books I go through for inspiration. Toth is a huge influence on me. And when I did the thing for the Comics Jam, I forget who my writer was, but when I sent him some rough pencils, he was like, "Oh, I love your Toth influence," and I was like, I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Of course,
It
yes. My obvious Toth influence. That's what I've been referencing this whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I freaking I love that. I watch. There's a YouTube channel all about Toth.
Oh, really? I have to find
I'll
that.
have to look it up, but there's a couple of people that just talk about his work and they break down his work. And there was a really cool interview I watched maybe 2 months ago, where Toth's daughter was on there, and they interviewed what it was like, to have Toth as a father. And she has her book out. I don't think it's about Toth. She's I believe a photographer, and she was talking about like her stuff and promoting her book. But yeah, it was a very interesting story.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the kind of histories of artists like that. Like the Alex Ross's, mother was a commercial artist, and that's where he got so much of his influence to use certain mediums. Like he's a big gouache artist and things like that.
Yeah.
When you hear kind of how people came to their individual approach, it provides more context, but also gives you a sense of like, yeah, there is so much diversity in how people develop their skill sets and build what they're doing.
Yeah.
For this character though.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's get back to it.
Yeah, sorry. So totally with you though. Moon Knight is my all-time favorite. There's just something wonky about how the character exists in Marvel that I appreciate. Weird character, the fractured psyche that is sort of an 80s throwback or it feels like an 80s throwback now, but feels present and is used in different ways in comics, I think is really cool. And that element of, psychosis or some sort of, cognitive challenge is present in the way that he shows up on the page. And it's been really fun to execute some of those images. I don't think you have it in here, but there's a moment that I've already drawn and inked and all that good stuff where he is just shaking with, suffering. And there is a moment of break that happens. And I think it's been really fun to explore how you draw that on the page to be both respectful to the character's experience, but also understand that, there are layers to what's happening with this character here. And
I had
all the
that
while-
image in the preview, but I forgot to put it on the actual, because I love how you executed it.
Yeah, it's very much a work in progress at this point for some of those. And so what you're highlighting too on this one here, Michael, that our victim, so wondering who killed the Grand Knight is kind of that central conceit that Doug's put onto the page. But there are these little individual character dynamics that occur because of all the different facets of that Batman archetype that Doug has pulled out and kind of given their own separate character that we get to see come out. And that was another fun thing to draw too, right? How do you draw a character who is literally two in your face, right? That first page up there involves the Cardinal getting too close to Night Mask. So panel 3 there, right there.
In this one? Okay.
Yeah. So the way that Doug wrote that panel, he is too close. He is in the personal space. And that as an artist is a strange thing to try to draw. So you have to provide that appropriate context. But that's been interesting. The way that they're characterized has to show up not only in what they're saying, but also how you render them.
Yeah. I just want to highlight Daniel's comic for a moment. He says Comics Crush is the YouTube channel for the Toth stuff for those
Nice.
interested. I actually was looking that up, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So yeah, if you look up Comics Crush, they have a discussion called Alex Toth in Depth, and that's the specific. I'll just drop the link in the comments there.
I gotta write that down. I'll forget.
It can get really cool to look at that. I mean, like I said, he's my favorite, so I will go look up artists who talk about him. But yeah, I just dropped it in the comments, so if you just want to click the link, you can follow, subscribe, follow, and if you haven't done that to my channel yet, please do so.
Yes, please do.
Always happy to have another follower.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, this is looking really nice here. I am going to have to now check out what the rewards are because I feel
we've got a couple of fun tiers in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean the standard digital, and then there's the print version that will get out. We've got a target date of September, but the pace we're moving at is looking at fulfillment quite a bit sooner than that. So we're making good to get that progress.
I mostly put those later dates in case there's any kind of snafu with the printer, which we've had really good rapport with them in the past. In case the United States shipping service gets any kind of delays, I put it further out than I typically would, just in case, because the things have been a little bit more turmoil than typical.
Yeah. And there's also, as you kind of get further down, there's mini posters. So the couple of those characters that you highlighted, there'll be at least 5 more of those, just kind of character stills to give you a sense of who those figures are, but rendered in a different light with a little bit more of their element and their backing there. So I think that's going to be a nice reward for folks. They're, nice cardstock prints. That'll be something that's, hey, I really like Jack's art. I don't know what compels you to say that, but if you do, you'll have something that you could have right up with the book, have in a frame, whatever you want. And then we've got some of Doug's classic books. He's got, seriously has so many different stories that are out there. Someone mentioned Leap M earlier, a fantastic story. There's Ultramax, there's The Dying Run, which I was fortunate enough to be able to letter. Really cool book, really interesting story in there. And then Loser Pool #1. Doug, I don't know if you want to plug any of those books or kind of what their setup is, but they're all worth reading.
Leap In was one of my first books. I it's kind of a revenge story about like a future where instead of going to prison, you get put into a machine and pushed forward in time, age-wise, and you feel like you've been inside of prison the whole time in your mind, but you're not. You're rehabilitated and put back on the street. And somebody maybe gets framed for a murder they didn't commit, and now they're super old and trying to get revenge on the person that cost them everything of their
Hmm.
life.
Little bit,
Um,
little bit old boy, little bit,
yeah, yeah.
little bit Black Mirror. There, it's a cool story.
I get a lot of Demolition Man, which I have
Yeah.
never seen, but I think it's probably apt. The Dine Run is the most recent. I mean, yeah, the Dine Run's the most recent one. It's a super villain one shot where it's kind of the survival game type of setup where a guy who's gone to prison because he wanted to make a life for his grandma who's dying. He tried to put her in comfort, and he had to turn to crime to get there. And now they've offered him a chance to get out early, but he's going to have to survive the game of death. And while he's not a killer, can he figure out how to put it together? And um, that's that setup. Let's see. Ultramax is a very easy one. It's super villain in prison. It's another. What happens if the world's greatest detective is killed by just like a schlubby henchman? Now he's in prison, and everybody wants to make their name off of who killed the you know this important superhero. And so, how does he keep himself alive? And it's just like Batman animated series. They had a episode where like some guy just thinks he's killed Batman, and the Joker's incensed with this guy, and that's just the easy setup for that one.
Yeah, and I actually my mind went right to that episode.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And then lastly, Loser Pool is another. It's just like I love a lot of fighting games, and so video games. So just like what happens if all those like loser guys in those fighting games were forced to kind of moral combat their way for a second chance of redemption, and that's the idea behind that one.
they all sound like great comics.
Thank you. I try to do as simple as possible to for people to understand. I think that's my
Yeah.
one good thing about me.
A straightforward pitch, right, or straightforward
Yeah.
sell.
Typically,
Yeah. And so,
sorry.
no, it makes my life easier too, right? If every single page helps sell that central conceit of what we're trying to find clues, we're trying to establish these dynamics. Great,
Yeah.
we've got a story that works. So as you get into some of these other tiers too, so you can catch up on Doug's past books. You can get that physical copy. You can get some of these mini posters. You can get all the mini posters if you really want. And then the last two I think are fun. We will murder you. So Doug and Jack will murder you in a comic. So if you pledge $100, we will write and illustrate a one-page story where you, the backer, not somebody else. Well, you can't make this so that I'm murdering your boss or something like that. I'm not going to do that. I'll figure it out. We'll murder you in tasteful fashion.
Yes.
If you would like to not be murdered, but you like us enough to pledge to our campaign for $1 more, we will not murder you, but we will do something very similar and make a one-page comic for you of theme concept of your choosing, with limitations like please don't make me draw something I don't want to draw, whatever.
Huge
But
crowded scene and inappropriate stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Don't make me draw how you could make a bomb. I'm not going to do that. Don't let that be a thing that you've asked me to do and then I have to say stop
That's
doing
issue
that.
too.
Ask me to draw something interesting, or better yet, something totally uninteresting, but a lot of time so that I fill up the page. My life will be really easy. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, someone already took that. You got 4 out of 5 left.
we got
that's
one
kinda
taker
cool.
here for us to not murder them. And if you
Yes.
would like to be one of those people who isn't murdered, take a look at In the Pale Moonlight on Kickstarter now.
And
I got the sell voice for that one.
I just want to reiterate what Jack said earlier is we don't want to make anything off of this. We're just doing shipping and printing. If we get over the thing like we hope to do, we're wanting to show all of our proceeds going to the American Red Cross. We want to help people out. We're not making this to make money. We want to make a comic, and we also want to help people out.
Yeah. And listen, this sounds great. Doug, all your other titles sound amazing. Are there other ways to get them outside of the Kickstarter? Do you have them, on a shop or anything?
Yeah, I have a Gumroad as well. They're available right now. Um, and I think I just recently put them up on Global Comics website as
Okay.
well. So uh, people can preview them and see if they have any interest, and see if I got anything
Sillyville
juiced as the
asks, for
kids.
$100, will I draw you winning an argument with your wife? I said I'd draw something realistic. No. I mean, if you set up a good argument, if you set up an argument of like, yeah, I mean, I will, but I have to make that joke, right? That's too. You set up those pins, I have to knock them down. Yeah, I'll draw. If you give me the setting, and by the way, for $100, no, I draw you losing an argument and getting murdered.
Uh,
For $101, yeah, I'll draw
yeah.
you winning that argument.
And he will have like the watermark that it says fantasy all over the whole comic
yeah,
too,
and it won't be Comics Code Authority approved. Like I have caveat the living daylights out of this, but yeah, I mean I will draw sort of fantastical stuff, and the cool, I mean, so this is one of the things that I like doing. There's all sorts of different projects that I've done personally, whether it's a friend of mine had me commissioned to do like an ad for a social campaign for Amtrak. Silly, random thing, but it was a different art style than I typically do, or was a diversions there. Another time that I helped a friend put together a tabletop role-playing game and helped him come up with all the art for the rule book and all the promo art and things like that, a different style as well. If you're somebody who wants to back and you're like, hey, I have enough where I want to donate at that tier where I get to put together a story, you can tell me what the art influences that you want to be represented. I can't guarantee that I can draw like Steve Ditko, but I guarantee I will try really hard, and I'll make sure that if you say, hey, do it a little different, do it whatever. I mean, that's the fun thing about making comics is you get to learn and you get to hear what stories people want to hear, and you get to help them tell them. So, yeah, if you want to win an argument with your wife and you want me to draw that like Sean Phillips and you want Doug to write like Ed Brubaker, absolutely. I don't think Doug can do it, and that is a personal challenge to Doug, but we'll get it done.
He is a chameleon though. He can assume very many different art forms and different genres. So I would not pass him if you told him to do what do you say, Dicko? I think you could do Dicko.
Yeah, I mean, you should see some of the stuff that I've done with Christian's writing, if you want to call it that. There are a lot of different little approaches that I've taken to get that stuff on the page.
Oh, don't put his comment right over your face just as you.
That's fun. No, I'm
sorry. That's where it goes, man. That's where it goes.
I genuinely think that's funny. A horse. So if you want to take a look, and I'll post this up on my Instagram or something like that, so people can take a look afterward. But one of the first stories that Christian wrote that I drew was supposed to be like writers make the artist mad. Just that was the premise here. And Christian wrote one called Horses and Hands, and it sure delivered on all the things that artists love drawing. And so I kind of built a combative rapport, which you can't imagine me having a combative rapport with anybody. And I gave him all the horses and hands he could possibly want. And there's like 5 or 6 different art styles layered on that page that I thought just worked. And so that's one of the fun, like I said, it's one of the fun things is you get to try out different things. And, you know, if somebody gets mad at you for trying a style and not executing it perfectly, they're looking at comics for the wrong reason, right? Comics should be fun. They should be accessible, and the economics of it suck. And so if you can take that part of the calculus out of it for you, it makes it so much easier to tell a good story. And that's, I mean, I hope that's what people are seeing when they're looking at the campaign. And if they're not, that's okay.
No, I mean, listen, that sounds great. I like that how, and this goes for all the people at Comics Jam that I've interacted with. You all have a really good head on your shoulders in the sense of your outlook towards comics, and nobody's sitting there with delusions of grandeur about how that you just truly love comics. You want to make good comics, and you want to work together with the people that you like to make them. And I think it's a great community. I think that it's awesome that it brought you two together. Um, still one of the best. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just reading here.
Yeah.
Still one of the best comic one page. But yeah, I think it's a really great um, outlook. And every time I end up talking to Christian, whether it's just individual conversation or him and James are on and we're talking or whatever, there's just such a positivity that it inspires me that I just want to go and like work on my stuff when I'm done talking to you guys, which
Yeah.
is another reason I want to come back and eventually start looking at the Comics Jam again because you guys are all inspiring.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that means a lot too. Yeah, there's such a spirit of collaboration and willingness to learn, and truly nobody has an ego that I've interacted with there. Again, excluding Thomme Lineup from there, who has been in the chat and has been nothing but polite. I do have to mock him at some point here. So no, we've got really great group of letterers. We've got a great group of writers and artists and people who will pitch in on coloring pages and things like that. So I mean, wholeheartedly agree. It's why I stick around.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? I think we might be wrapping up, but I mean, listen, I know I could talk to you guys about a lot of other things, but today was a focus on on here. Let me just stop the screen share. Was a focus on your Kickstarter, which I keep turning my head to look at because man, it's just really cool.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I mean, I definitely think you guys are going to make your goal. I have to say this though, doing this show, and Christian can vouch for this, and I've said many times I'm never going to do crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Because of my anxiety, I think it would drive me nuts. And I always said if I do something, it might be something small like $200 or $500, just to. Because I do all the writing usually myself and I do all the artwork myself. But if I work with someone, you know what I mean? Like it would be really just to get them some cash.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I'm starting to think like with this one I told you about my giant robot story. I think I might be leaning towards when it's complete a crowdfunding.
If you do, please talk to me because I offer this to anybody. If you're starting out, if you need help, come talk to me. I can help with budget. I do all this for free, by the way, because my disability, I can't make money anyways, but I like to help out anyways. But have helped out other creators do this, but help out budget wise, help out setting up the page if you need help setting up the page. If you need help figuring out how distribution, printing, any of that stuff works out. Just come talk to me. Any this is open to anybody, by the way, not just you. But if you need help, come talk to me. I help out people. I do this and I like to do it, and for some reason it doesn't bother me like other people do. And so if you need somebody to hold your hand, I'm here to hold your hand and make it easy. And I won't make fun of you, just Jack. And
Easy
and
target.
and we can get you where you need to be, because I think it's something that everybody should try, if even if you don't feel like you're the right type to do it.
Yeah. I will say
I'll get a prescription of Xanax before I do that. So
yeah, you learn real quick how uncomfortable it is to promote yourself over and over. Like, it's it's a cool book, and I would love it if it got funded. But at the same time, I'm like, whew. I wonder if the people that are following me on Blue Sky or wherever really want to hear one more time that they could go back us. And you know what? Probably doesn't phase people as much as I think it does, because nobody's ever really focused on you as much as you are.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling everybody, because the idea is people say try to pitch it like every hour the first day you're going, and everybody's like, oh, that's so embarrassing. It feels so like, but people are logging on throughout the day are not going to see uh your post. Hour one they may see that post, but if they're scrolling in for the first time of the day, hour four they may see that post. And so you shouldn't be so hung up on how many times you do it,
Yeah.
because it's helpful and it's people understand because everybody's doing it. And Sillyville official, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you right this second, but yes, please me up on it. Find me
Yeah.
anywhere you can find me, and we'll talk
Well,
about it.
actually, that was the thing. I was before, usually when I end, I ask where people can find you. And Doug, I didn't get any social media from you. Where can we find you?
It is hold on a second. Let me go to profile. It is Doug A. Wood, Blue Sky thing thing.
I thought it was
Doug A.
Duga Wood. I always
Doug
thought it was
A.
like Duga Wood.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's my
Is it
middle
really?
initials A, so it's just Doug A. Wood. That's why my email is Doug A. Wood, like Doug period A period Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, was that from you got that from over here, right? Um, the what do you call it here? Your Kickstarter, was that on the page there, or for you?
Do what? Do what? No, sorry.
Are your socials on the bottom
Your
of the Kickstarter
social
page?
is it on the
No, I don't think so. I think I just have
no?
my bio, and I copy and paste it from my pitches, and then just
Can
forget
you
to do.
drop them into the drop your social into the comments there? Same thing for you, Jack, if you don't mind. This way,
Of
people
course.
can just click and follow you guys. I know you're on Instagram, Jack. Which is my primary social media.
Yeah.
Is Instagram.
It's tricky to keep track of it, and I mean that's the other part of it too. Is you spend all this time developing skills as an artist or skills as a writer or whatever, and then when you run a crowdfunding campaign, you have to develop skills as a marketer, or that kind of language is weird. The nice thing has been it's pretty fun to play around with how you copyright. Hey, take a look at this thing. Like the message is the same. Please go look at my Kickstarter. But the way you communicate it changes so much from day to day. So that's been a fun part of it too, is just figuring out ways that I can do that. And also, it makes you so much more aware of other folks in the community who are doing the same thing. So, like Leslie Julian is running a Kickstarter right now for Lost Lake #1. Phenomenal writer, super nice guy. People should go check it out. And
I,
that's, I mean, there's a saving grace of not only are you running this, but other people are in that same spot. And I think it makes you more cognizant of them.
I read that script early, luckily, because I've worked with them in the past, and I cannot say yes nice things about like I said, video rental store, like horror type movie in a comic form. I just love that. So if you're looking for other comics, Lost Lake is a big pitch for me.
Mostly. Okay. That's cool. I actually if you guys watched my show last week, I had a guest who canceled and I had to fill the time, and I what I ended up doing was doing a whole show about crowdfunding. I went on different crowdfunding sites. I asked people to send me what they are backing or if they had something, and I picked like 5 or 6 Kickstarters. I went on what is it, Indiegogo, Fund My Comics, Zoop, um, and I just talked about it. I did like 2 hours of me talking about and promoting stuff, things I had no like actual connection to outside maybe knowing the artist for, well, a couple I knew for a long time, but really I don't know them like, well, I know them through social media or something, and I just said, "Hey, look, let me get some doing stuff," and I got a lot of good feedback that I'm thinking it might become a once a month piece, because my show really, when I started, it was to promote indie comics. That's what this is really about. So I try to highlight as many indie creators as I can, and I think doing crowdfunding once a month and just pushing whatever I can now will or helping highlight stuff that people may not see will be a good thing on the show here. And I might bring a guest in to talk about it. I might just do it by myself. I don't know. But the end of April is my next scheduled one, which this will be over by. So I will try to promote this for you guys before then.
Thank you.
Man. Yeah. I mean, and that's such a huge thing too, right? Just finding advocates out there that are like, they get it, they've been there, or they're aware of it, and they're looking,
If you do that, talk to me, because I've been doing those for the Comic Book Yeti site. They do articles and stuff like that, and I've been doing articles about like what's coming out from the Diamond catalog and stuff like that, trying to help find indie comic creators. I also cover the Kickstarter campaigns that are coming out weekly and stuff like that. Just want to help the community out as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I have your email. I definitely will be reaching out to you. So yeah, with that, you guys, this has been a lot of fun. You're both honestly welcome back anytime. You guys have a Kickstarter or anything.
Next month.
You know, go check it out. You know, go let me know,
Yeah.
and we'll check it out. And I was going to tell you to check out your own stuff. Sorry.
I will. I mean, it looks great. No, and
That's
if
the
you ever-
attitude to have, though.
Right. If you ever want, I mean, well, separately, I always tell people I draw for an audience of one, and I mean that's the best place to start. But if you ever wanted to chat about art process or drawing or anything like that, that's such a fun topic too.
I'm actually I've always tried to you know, my show mostly is let's interview artists. If they have a crowdfunder,
Yeah.
let's pitch the crowdfunder. But I've always wanted to try to branch out and do some other like highlights of different aspects, specifically in the creation process, where
Yeah.
I highlight writers, I'm going to highlight artists. We talk about, because everyone works a little differently, I think, for the most part. You know, so I want to start building those shows. I have a really interesting one scheduled for May. But I am looking for something for a show in April. Maybe we'll start doing that too.
Nice. Yeah. But I mean, what you're doing is awesome as is too, right? There's, for myself as somebody who has chatted a handful of times with people, like Christian was kind enough to let us chat his ear off for way too long about our book. And it's just nice to have an audience who gets it and who isn't just the, you know, person who's always been in your corner, but it's also somebody who's just now seeing your stuff, to have that sense that, yeah, we are a community and this is how we grow. That's, that means a lot.
Awesome. Well, you know, you're very welcome, like I said, to come back, and I'm happy I could do this for you guys. And you know, anybody out there who is watching right now, or you're watching in the future, and you have a comic or you have something, you know, I'm, you know, just pitch it to me. You know, you can message me on Instagram, YouTube. You know, I think it has access to my email. You can get me on Facebook. I'm not really on any other social medias too much. I have an X account, but I don't use it as much as, you know, whatever. I have a Blue Sky, but I don't even go on that. I've had Blue Sky since, you know, the invite times.
Yeah.
I think I've been on it twice. So
it's weird how I will post comic stuff
Mhm.
and a couple likes here and there, and then I will post like a Warhammer mini or something like that, and wildly different response. So
Yeah.
I think you just kind of find your community where you find it.
Exactly.
Algorithms are what they are.
Yeah. Anyway, anytime I post something other than my art, it does better than my artwork. So who knows?
Maybe you're a writer then.
No, I think I just need to show more pictures of my cat.
Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah, that's
So that seems to get the majority of my stuff. But anyway, it's no, it's just like you said, it's the algorithm. I'm not being seen like I should be. At one point, no, I'll tell you this. At one point on Facebook, I was getting over 100 interactions, you know, likes, hearts, and I don't know what happened. Now I get 20, 30.
Yeah.
So things change. Instagram, I've done, you know, between 60 and 100 like years ago. Now it's at that 20, 30 mark. So I'm like, okay, well, listen, I got my fans. It is what it is. If I can figure out how to get more, I'll do it. But yeah,
it's not worth the effort on trying to figure out how to grind your numbers up to a point where you're going to get 40 likes instead of 20 on something like that.
That's the thing. Plus, it's about getting the work done and out there. And when I'm ready, hopefully that's when I'm ready to sell or put something up, say on like a webtoon or whatever. That's when I get the readers. You know, that's when I'm looking for the people. So anyway, I keep saying we got to wrap it up. Let's do this because I actually want to go draw and veg out a little bit. Maybe actually watch something. So again, thank you guys both for coming on. Everybody, I didn't even get a chance to put the
Thank you so much for
started in
having
the
us.
comments. Yeah, you guys are very welcome. This looks great. I will do my best to share this when I can. Definitely before the 22 days. And seriously, stay in contact, guys. If there's any, do you guys want to say anything to the audience before I end?
I saw Kevin Lintz pop in here. Kevin, that's not what my voice sounds like. You don't know what my voice sounds like. That's it. That's all I'm saying to him. So, but everyone else, thank you for joining. Everyone else who is super nice, who's been friendly, again, present company accepted. Thank you so much. But if you take a look at our book and you think it's worth backing, please back it. Please share it. Do that. If you like our work separately, you don't have to back the book. You can like our other work and back that too. Doug's got a lot of good books that are worth reading. And if you feel like In the Pale Moonlight isn't for you, that's okay too. So, but everyone, seriously, thank you for joining and thanks for chatting and sassing and all that good stuff.
My closing words are, please forgive me.
All right. All right,
Yeah,
everyone. So, I'll be back next week. I'll let you know who the guest is, and when I start posting the ad. I just want to confirm, since I had a guest cancel, I'm just double checking with everyone a little bit more now. And it's not that they canceled. I'm rescheduling. Something came up. I've done it before. But yeah, like I said in the beginning of the show, please go check out on Amazon The Whimsical Wiz. You get the complete 2023 collection of my comic, which is now over. I ended it the first day of this year, so I can work on other stuff. Also, Zorro Exploits and Zorro Swordplay and Romance from Bold Venture Press. You can get that from boldventurepress.com and Amazon.com, and also A Kid in a Comic. I can't talk highly enough about this. I am so, John was on the show once, the guy who's the publisher. He's such an awesome guy. What he's doing is amazing, and he's got such a great list of indie creators. Some of them, are actual comic pros doing their own indie comic strip in here. So it's not like he's got reprints of Garfield or anything. This is legit, like, new comics that this is going into its third year, I think, this summer, and it's going to be it's all original stuff. So akidinacomic.com, and I've had JM DeSantis on here. His Chadiana's in there, and he's writing another story that's in there. Who is it? Tim Jones, who does Sour Grapes, has been on here. He's in there. There's just so many to name. So yeah, you guys, I'm going to try to start bringing some of the guys on because I've been getting to know them and they're really cool people. So with that, I will see you all next week. If you're around on Sunday, please watch my weekly update of my process of making comics for this current story I'm doing. And there might be a live draw next week before the show. So yeah, with that, I will see you all later. Thank you for watching, and please, if you're on watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that. And if you're watching on Twitch, what is that? Follow, like, I don't remember how that one is. I'm rarely on Twitch. Yeah. So, and I'm TOON Maker 76 TOON Maker 76 on Twitch, and my name Michael Grassi on YouTube. All right, guys.